Hello and welcome to today's LentL. If you'd like to like and subscribe Darlington Baptist Church online and click the tick notification, then every time a new LentL is uploaded, you will get a message to say that you should watch today's episode. This is the third in our three of mini-series of LentL. We started by looking at the Lord's Prayer and spent a number of days looking at that. Then more recently, we've been looking at Psalm 23. And thank you to Jane, to Lexus, to Kerry, and to Pete for helping us with that. And today we're starting the journey towards Easter Day, the day of glorious resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we're going to start by reading Matthew 26 and then work through to Matthew 27, day by day, until we reach the end of Lent on Saturday the 16th of April. So let me begin by reading Matthew 26 verses 1 to 5. The plot against Jesus. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "As you know, the Passover is 2 days away, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they schemed to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or there may be a riot among the people. I wonder, how many times did it take you to pass your driving test? If you're watching this on YouTube, why not comment how many times it took you? Some people, like myself, passed first time. Others took 2, 3, 4, or maybe even like Vicky, 5 times to pass their driving test. And I remember Vicky was saying that when she was doing her test, there was a sense of foreboding that the day was coming, the day of testing was coming. And I wonder, I guess you and I have felt like that on different occasions in our lives, maybe when we've had exams to sit and we know we've got to go through that moment of trial and of testing, but being really worried about it and being nervous about it, but knowing that we had to do it. Maybe medical results, getting some test results back from procedures that we've had, have they been successful or not? Or maybe it's something else. We know we've had to face a trial, to go through a test, and how we faced it. In our passage today, we read that Jesus understands that he's got to go through the trial of crucifixion. He says at the start of the passage that we read, Jesus finished saying all these things. So what things? So we need to look at Matthew 25 and read what he was saying. And in Matthew 25 and the previous chapters, he's saying some parables. He's teaching on some parables, which are stories about being ready for God to move, being ready for things to be different, being ready for things to change. And how much is that like where we are now in our lives, with things being different following coronavirus, with things being changed because of the situation in the cost of living, with the situation being uncertain in Eastern Europe. We need to be ready for things to be different. Jesus only spoke to his close followers. He told his disciples that he was going to be crucified. He only tells his friends something that is really significant. And I wonder if you have friends who are significant in your life and who you talk to about the things that you are going through. Jesus spoke to his disciples and told them of this. Perhaps his disciples thought that after the triumphal entry and all that had gone on, that Jesus wasn't going to have to go through a crucifixion after all. Maybe he wasn't going to have to suffer, but Jesus knew what his call was, and he was reminding them that the Son of Man, Jesus himself, would have to suffer. And then we read of the enemies, the chief priests and the scribes, in Caiaphas, scheming together to come up with a scheme to arrest Jesus secretly. And we know, many of us who followed the Lord, that there is an enemy and a supernatural battle going on, that Christ has won, but still there are supernatural forces at work against us as we seek to fulfill what God has. And so we know that the enemy, the Bible teaches, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. There are schemes at work against us. But they didn't want to put Jesus to death in the Passover. They didn't want him to put him to death in the Passover because they didn't want a riot to take place. But that's exactly how Jesus wanted it to happen. He wanted it to happen in the time frame that it did. Another subtle indication that Jesus is in control of all of these events. In fact, they killed him on the very day they didn't want to kill him, because Christ was in control. So as we draw that to a close today, we think this. Clark said, having instructed his disciples and the Jews by his discourse, edified them by his example, convinced them by his miracle, now he prepares to redeem them by his blood. Having instructed his disciples and the Jews by his discourses, having edified them by his example, convinced them by his miracles, he now prepares to redeem them by his blood. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be thinking about that moment on the cross where Christ cried out, "It is finished." I don't want to preempt that, but I do want you to be prepared as we go on this journey together. May God bless you, and we look forward to speaking to you in the days to come.